Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing a special indie horror spotlight. Today, I have with us, he's the director of the movie that won the Horror Realm Awards 2023 for Best Picture, which is called The Craving, which is streaming on Tubi or anywhere where you can find horror movies. It's an amazing movie, and he has a new movie that's in production right now, and it's an on-demand indie go for it. It's called A Hard Place. I have with us Jay Horton. Jay, welcome to the Horror Realm.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure having you, man. I've been trying to get you on my show for a long time, man, a long time. But I'm glad we were able to connect. I was able to get you on.
Yeah, me too. I love doing these.
So tell everyone who hasn't had a chance to see it yet, tell us a little bit about Craving.
Well, Craving it's a really interesting monster movie. It's kind of a monster movie / crime thriller, or crime thriller / monster movie, as might be more apt. It follows a group of criminals. The movie's been out for a year, so I'll get a little spoilery here. Yeah. One of they're heroin addicts, and one of the addicts is actually a monster. And he uses heroin to keep from changing into a monster. So, basically, it goes crime thriller for, 60 minutes and then becomes a crazy monster movie in the last 30. It's all kind of a metaphor for the, dangers of addiction and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a fun movie. Kind of inspired a little bit from Dusk Till Dawn a little. And definitely wears that on his sleeve. But yeah, fun movie.
It's a great movie because there's two groups that are against each other, and watching the movie, you kind of understand each side, and it has great character development with Felissa Rose in it, as well as Kevin Caliber, who I had the pleasure to interview as well last year.
Yeah,
the acting is great. The character development is amazing, and also it has one of the most gruesome kill scenes I've seen in a while.
Yeah, you talking about the head rip or the spine?
Both.
Yeah, both. Yeah. The head rip is my favorite. And if I remember correctly, that's not even how it was supposed to go down. I think that we didn't improv it, because we had to build the head and everything. Yeah. But it was something that we came up with kind of late in the game. Me and the special effects artist Robert Bravo, and honestly, that's my favorite effect he's ever done in anything. I love that.
Oh, it's amazing. Even the gunshot when a character walks out the door in the beginning, and
yeah.
That was holy shit.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you what, because one thing that was really important to me, because this is it is billed as a horror movie, but you spend about 60-65 minutes with very little horror going on. So it was I told the effects artist when we started, I was like, so all of the action that happens in the top half, whether it's the crime stuff or gunshots or whatever, that needs to be taken up to an 11. So if we're not going to give the horror stuff in the first 60 minutes, we at least got to deliver on the the gore things. So if somebody gets blasted by a shotgun, they're going to get blasted in the face, and it's going to take half their face off, and the face is going to be bleeding. So yeah. So that was why that was so and a lot of other movies, it might have been a little more pulled back, but I was like, let's just go all the way out with it.
He definitely went all the fuck away.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what the fuck?
Definitely. But, and I in her performance, Felissa gave a really dramatic, cool, death performance. And it was very, very vocal. And I actually, in post-production, I actually kind of pulled that back a little bit, because I was like, well, it was really big. So I was like, let's just pull it back just a little bit, but it was still, it was great though. And Felissa's so, everybody talks about how cool Felissa Rose is. I had never worked with her. I'm a fan. I've seen her work. She's a good actress, but man, it is no lie. She is a ray of sunshine. Like, she comes onto the set, man, and she is so full of positivity and like happy to be there. And this is a woman who's been acting for 30 plus years, and has worked on some bigger shows, and she comes in doing these smaller indie flicks, and she does not treat it like. I've worked with a lot of name actors over the years, and I won't say names, but I've worked with some that come onto these low budget movies, and man, they're there to collect their money and get there, and they have absolutely no respect for you or what you're doing or the thing. They're just hustling their money. Nothing against them, but that's what they're doing. It's definitely at that point not a love of the game. Felissa Rose loves the game. Like she loves it, and it translates, man. Like, you can't, if you're in a bad mood and she comes around, all of a sudden you're just like, like, great. Yeah.
And you can tell that, I mean, just from the audience, you can tell that she actually enjoys it. Like you were saying, like, yeah, a lot of indie filmmakers, they might get a quote unquote big name come in, and you can tell that they're there for the check, get the fuck out, quick as possible. And and it's just for their, the filmmakers getting just for their name to be put on that poster.
But, and nothing against it. I've definitely done it, and to be honest, like, I love Felissa, but that was my thing. I want to sell the movie, so I put a name in there, and I might not have cast her, if it wasn't for sales, but now in retrospect, I absolutely would. And when it came to, my follow-up to Craving, she was one of the first people that I reached out to, because, not only is she a lovely human being, but she's a really good actor as well.
And that's why I heard that she's an amazing person to work with.
Yeah. She really is.
Now, and I've had the pleasure to interview Kevin Caliber and last year on my show. Mm-hmm. Great guy as well. He was also in another movie that you're attached to that I enjoyed last year. That was called 16 Bits. I fucking love that movie. Yeah,
he's so cool in that. Yeah. Aaron Minto's a talented director. Yeah, really, like, it's a really off the wall movie. It's very cool. It's very cool. Yeah. I honestly didn't do a lot with that. I just kind of helped them raise some money for it.
Now, you've jumped from genre to genre. I mean, I was looking at your IBD history. Yeah. I mean, you've worked everywhere from black comedies to gospel movies to sci-fi to horror. Church. A little bit of everything. Yeah,
I've done erotic thrillers. I've done everything. Yeah. Documentaries. I really like documentaries now. Yeah, no. So, as both a filmmaker and a movie fan, like, do not get me wrong, I love horror. I'd probably put horror, at the top of my list. But, I have very broad tastes. Like, I watch all kinds of stuff, and I like making all kinds of stuff. There's different pluses and minuses to working into different genres. Like, I would say as a narrative filmmaker now, I pretty much just want to stick in horror. Like, I'm going to do horror, and then I'm going to make documentaries on the side, but as far as, like doing the romantic comedies and the church movies and the erotic thrillers, like, I probably won't be doing any more of those. A lot of it was, and don't get me wrong, I liked them. I'm not crapping on them, but, a lot of those were for hire works. I'm a very lucky individual. I self-produced my first 2 movies. And then, and then I was, shooting some stuff for other people, like camera work and doing some editing. And I started getting hired to direct movies, and so I did, a long slew of hired gun jobs. And that was when I was doing, the black comedies and the church movies and and a lot of them were for the same company. I think I did 10 movies for the same company. And then I did like 3 or 4 others for other people. But, and I like doing that. But, as far as producing my own stuff, like, I like horror. And right now I'm really digging like the monster movie subgenre. So like I did, Craving and, Hard Place. And I have one that I'm developing right now that I plan on following up A Hard Place with. And they're all like this monster movie kind of trilogy, not directly connected, but all monster movies.
I love it. Because anybody who I have a chance to tell, somebody asked me, say, what is a good indie horror movie that I've never heard of that's on Tubi. And I always say Craving. I'm like,
yeah,
what is that?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and they, what is that? And I'm like, it's like fucking, it's like a, it reminds me of like Aliens, but it's in a fucking bar, and it's like Aliens in a bar.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's the way I explain it. But
yeah,
so I have a question. How do you go from doing black gospel movies, get your mindset to do black gospel movies, to horror movies?
Well, so I guess maybe I'll start with how I got into black gospel movies. So I did I did 3 movies before I started getting hired for others. I did a movie called Trap, which was this kind of like super low budget thriller. It was, I would never make this movie today, but it was about a middle-aged kidnapper that fell in love with his teenage victim. You know,
wow.
would not touch it today. but I made it, you know, and I made it for like, I don't know, like $4,000, and you know, I edited it myself, and you know, it caught the attention of a couple of producers in Louisiana, in New Orleans, the Garcia brothers. They used to be rappers, Cain and Abel, back in the day, like Dirty South. They were part of Masterpiece Crew. Anyway, they started producing movies, and they were African Americans themselves, and they were doing a lot of black based either church comedies or like thrillers, stuff like that. So anyway, they were impressed with the work I did on this. A friend of mine had introduced us, and David started hiring me to do these movies. And it's because, you know, I could do them, you know, I could shoot a movie for them in 5 days. I could edit it in a couple of weeks and get it out. And they would come to me usually with a movie, like a poster of it, and be like, here's the poster, here's the title. And this is in January. This is going to be on DVD shelves in April. You know, then we go shoot it, you know. And I did with those guys, I did in 1 month once. We did 3. I'm sorry. We did 2. No. I'll get it right. We did 1 regular feature, which we shot in 6 days. And then we did 3 other features that we shot in either 1 or 2 days a piece, and did them all in a month. And the first one of those 4 movies was out on shelves the following month. Like, just knocking them out, man. And but anyway, I always, though, you know, the first movie I ever wrote and directed on my own was horror. The second was horror. You know, like Trap was kind of a thriller, but you know, it was in that vein. And then Monsters in the Woods, I followed that up with. I think I did Monsters in the Woods right before or right after I did my first movie for the Garcias. So like I always kept, when it's something that I was developing myself, it was almost always horror. You know, it was like all the other things were kind of paid jobs, but I was, you know, I liked doing them, and I was good at it. And the producers liked me, and I always, you know, kept them under budget, on time, and the movies were successful. So, you know, I did it. But then, you know, I started looking at those guys' business model, you know, because they kept things very close to the vest, but you get little nuggets here and there. And after about, you know, 3 or 4 years of it, I'm kind of like, you know, I could do this. I just need to get the movie financed, but I could do the distribution stuff like they're doing. I can do the marketing like they're doing. And I find out later that it is much harder. It wasn't as easy as I thought, but I did end up figuring it out. And then I kind of pivoted back into horror. The only reason that I, you know, kind of moved into documentaries was, you know, it was right around COVID, and, you know, it was hard to get out and actually take on a full production. So like documentaries were kind of easier to do. You know, you could go just shoot an interview kind of one-on-one, you know, socially distanced with masks, but you could do it. And so I made a crap load of documentaries and got really good at that, and actually found it was pretty lucrative. So I continue to do that. Now I use the documentaries as like my day job. Like I do, well, I was doing like 12 a year. Now I think I did like maybe 6 or 7 last year. And then I do horror movies like once every year and a half. And then, you know, and if the horror movie doesn't make a lot of money, so be it. I make my living off the docs. But of course, you hope that the horrors do. But so the horrors are the passion, docs are the day job.
So I also saw that you did a documentary on black serial killers. It was true or fiction.
Yeah,
and that's pretty interesting because what was it, in February? I was thinking about doing something on my show, like highlighting a black serial killer in this country, and then I got talked out of it, don't do that on Black History Month. But that's a fascinating piece because I started diving into there's a lot of black serial killers in this country.
Yes.
And
And
it gets stereotyped to white men between the ages of 25
exactly
and 45.
And they're basically alluding, or they're implying that black men aren't smart enough to be serial killers.
Yeah,
I mean that's the implication. So that particular project, and I can't take total credit for it. One of my best friends, Sean Reed, it was his baby. He was doing researching a documentary on the Atlanta Ripper, which was a black serial killer in the turn of the century Atlanta, and that one was taking too long to develop. So he's still working on it, but he wanted to do something in the interim. So he came up with this one, and it's a subject that's very close to his heart. So I produced it with him, and then I did the editing and put that out.
Because I was interesting for me to find out. It was interesting for me to find out that the serial killer with the largest body count is in this country is a black man. Yeah. I can't think his name off the top of my head, but he is the most.
Was it Cora Watts? Now I'm trying to remember. I just edited the thing. I should know. It might be Cora Watts, but it's one of them. We featured I think 4 or 5 serial killers on it, and they were all pretty prolific.
Yeah. Right. So now you have a new movie. It's actually we're finishing up, and it has an Indiegogo that's in demand, and it's called A Hard Place. Tell us a little bit about A Hard Place.
Yeah, A Hard Place. So it follows another group of criminals. I like criminals in horror movie settings because you know what I mean. Nice. I like having main characters that are dealing with a supernatural or some monster or something like that, but they can't rely on the usual safeguards of society. You know what I mean? It's like you have a criminal, even if the cops are around, they can't call the cops. You know what I mean? The military ain't going to come in and help them. They're totally on their own. And they're also at least in movie land, criminals are, they're badasses. They're tough, so it's cool to see these tough, unflappable characters having to deal with things that are much tougher and badder than they are. So I like that. So anyway, it's a group of criminals, and they're on the run after kind of a drug deal or a transaction goes bad, and they end up in this small it was originally written as a mountain town, but it's just a rural small town, and they find themselves mixed up in the middle of this ancient feud between 2 groups of monsters. Right. One group of monsters that basically dwells in the day and another that dwells in the night. So it's it's kind of a Hatfield and McCoy type thing, but with monsters, So that's the basic setup. And it's just honestly, it's the craziest movie I've ever made. Originally, I wanted to make this for about $500,000, and we ended up with Indiegogo and with equity and all. I think we ended up around 150,000. So not 5, but and it's a big movie. So like I said, there's 2 sets of monsters, and there's multiple monsters on each side. So you'll have these reptile-like creatures, and we have 8 of them. Full body prosthetics, suits and the effects. And then you have these plant-like creatures, and you have 8 or 9 of those. And then you have, a core cast of about 5. And then you have a supporting cast of about maybe 25. So, it's a big movie, you know, and there's like big like battles where these monsters are all fighting and tearing each other apart, you know, so it gets really crazy. And then and just tonally, it's a very like strange movie. Like it's, you know, when the horror is there, it's serious, but you know, there's a, you know, there's an underlying sense of humor, kind of a wry sense of humor with the characters, similar to Craving, but maybe a little bit further. You know, like it gets pretty wacky.
So how do you, for such a big movie, how do you do it with such a small budget?
Oh man, just dumb luck. No, I mean, honestly, there's and you know, I'd say this to any you know, new filmmakers. Like, there's a certain level of naivete that's like necessary to go into any movie, because any movie is a near impossible task to get something financed, shot, delivered, distributed. Like, it's all a miracle. So like, you know, you have to go into it like, oh yeah, I can do this, no problem, you know, even though you kind of know it is. But you know, also, you know, Hard Place is my 24th or 5th like director, you know, narrative directing feature. So you know, I've done it a lot, and I've done movies. You know, we shot A Hard Place in the Ohio portion of it was done in 10 days. And then we're doing 3 more days here in LA. So 13 altogether. But, you know, I've shot feature films in a day. You know, I've shot feature films in 4 days. I've sent them in 5 days. You know, I've done 24-day shoots, but, you know, I've done everything in between. So like what I used to tell people, well, back when I was doing like the 5-day features, I would say you got to look at it a little bit like you're playing like shot clock pool. You know, like you can't, like you don't have time to like line up and agonize over your shot. You just take it. You know, and that's what it is. And once you like do that a lot, repeat it a lot, you get like kind of like good at it. And, you know, like I can guess like, okay, I think this is going to work. Let's do this. And, you know, or this isn't working. Let's do that. And I can make that decision really fast, pivot. And I'd say one of my bigger strengths as a filmmaker, director, or producer is like, I can roll with the punches. Like, you know, if something goes wrong or something doesn't work out or somebody doesn't show up, I can make that pivot. You know, like I don't shut down. I always keep going. I've never not finished a movie. You know, I mean, you know, some of them are better than others, but I've never stopped, you know. So with A Hard Place, and it was tough, man. Hard Place was the physically toughest movie I've ever shot. You know, in you know, doesn't even the scale, forget all of that. We shot in Ohio in February, which some people say, well, why the hell did you do that? Well, we kind of had to. It was like, you know, we had done the Indiegogo, the original campaign was, I think we started it last year in February. So it'd been almost a year, you know? So like, like my kind of rule is if I'm doing a crowdfunding thing, like it has to happen within a year. You know, it's just, yeah. I mean, there's no, you know, legal thing or obligation, but you have to get it done. And I like it shorter than that. But we were originally going to shoot in October, and the SAG strike kind of set us off course. We were going to go SAG at that point. We ended up not going SAG, so it didn't matter. But it was too late. And then we decided on February, and the reason was we had a perfect location. We had this farmhouse in Ohio at a very reasonable price, and it was just perfect. And I looked all over the country for a place, and this place was just great. Now, the thing with Ohio, though, is basically when you get into March and April, it's basically like Seattle. It's like 50% chance rain all the time. You know, and like cold, you can kind of fight through, but if it's raining, you're shut down. So, you know, so we picked February, and you know, it had been a fairly temperate winter, so we were like, oh, it won't be too bad. And first day, man, and there was no snow on the ground, nothing. The day before it snowed, it got like 6 inches or 4 inches or something like that. It was like a winter wonderland, and temperature just dove. So we got on the first day, and I think it was like 10 degrees out. And then with wind chill, you know, below zero. So, we're having camera issues, like our follow focus is going slow or sticking. The actors are freezing. And then when the sun went down, we were shooting at a drive-in out there, and there's no wind cover, and it was so cold. And we had a gunshot gag, or a pneumatic squib blows on a guy's chest. So, but then the blood goes all over him. So we have this person covered in blood, and out there in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, of course we get him inside warm, but I mean, within, I think it was like less than 5 minutes, like the blood on him started to freeze, and it's not supposed to freeze. Like, it's made out of stuff that's not supposed to freeze, and it froze, and that was actually cold. Yeah, it was really cold. And that was our effects artist that actually did had put the squib on and did the explosion himself, because he wouldn't put anyone else in the position, so he did it. And it was freezing, man. And to be honest, there was one part of that sequence that we're going to reshoot here in LA, because we were rushing so fast, it just didn't come out. And then we got onto the farm, the next day, and it got a little warmer. It wasn't so bad. And then we had about 4 days where it was like in the 50s. It was okay. And then it got cold again. It was tough, man. But it just shows you like the level of dedication. Like no, we had no like major fights. Like, nobody walked off. Everybody was like down to do it. Everybody was there to play and make the movie, and did.
Now, this is a controversial question I'm going to ask you. Okay,
it's not about the porta potties, is it?
No, it's not about that.
Okay, I refuse to answer questions about the porta potties. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, how important is it when you're casting actors and actresses that they are team players? Like we were talking about before, people who are there for a paycheck or on to the next job as soon as possible. How important is it to have people who are actors who are willing to promote your movie? I mean, and put themselves into aspects of it.
I think it's important. But like here, hold on, I'm just gonna close this door. Dogs are going crazy. So I think it's important for actors to promote. I used to feel differently about this. I used to say that, like, no matter what, like they have to do it. And I do feel like it's the smart thing to do for an actor to promote. But, at the end of the day, what I've realized, because, in the last 6 years, like I've gotten really pretty good at the promotion side of things, like, marketing and distribution. I have a YouTube channel for it. But it's hard, and some people take to it and are good at it and are comfortable with it, and some people aren't, and I don't get too upset when people don't promote for me anymore, and I don't take it personal, because like I do realize now that some people just they don't have that mechanism. They don't understand it. They're not comfortable doing it, or whatever. Like I personally have like really big like social anxiety. I have all kinds of anxiety issues. Now I have overcame it for my promotion stuff, but some people still struggle with that. So I'm kind of okay with it. Although my question to someone who is not comfortable with it, I'm kind of like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Because it is part of it. Like if you want to get more jobs as an indie actor, the best way is to promote the hell out of your movies. Because I'll tell you, for straight up, I hired most of my core cast on this. There are people that I worked with before. There are people that support the films, and so they're who I cast. And if I have the choice between someone that I know promotes and is good, and someone that doesn't promote and they might just be a little better, but they don't promote at all, I might go with the promotion person. But at the end of the day, too, your promotion it's a weird thing. If you have 3 or 4 people that are doing strong promotion for you on a feature, it's usually enough. So if I have one part and the actor is just perfect for it and they don't really promote much, I'll probably go ahead and and cast them. But if there's someone else close to it that promotes more, I'll take the promotion first.
And the reason I asked that question, apparently in one of the indie horror groups, and it was a couple of days ago, a filmmaker called out an actor or actress for not promoting. Well, they weren't promoting their movie, but they were promoting another movie that they were in.
Yeah, that's bad form.
Yeah.
This is just my 2 cents, but I don't think that a filmmaker should not be publicly outing somebody like that for that. If anything, that just makes the filmmaker look bad. I never. Then again, this is just my 2 cents, dude. But I never air any kind of movie set drama or personal drama on social media. And when I see other people do it, the whether it's conscious or not, I'm just like, oh, there's somebody I'm not going to deal with. Even if they're in the right. I've seen filmmakers that are like, they have a valid gripe, but did it really have to be broadcast on? So like, that's somebody that I'm like, okay, I will not work with that person. Or if I see an actor who's calling out a filmmaker, now don't get me wrong, if the filmmaker is putting people in danger or is harassing people, or is doing something illegal, that's a different situation. But if they're being a dick, or you know what I mean, or it's something where someone wasn't hurt, or they just don't like them, or they have a weird personal grievance, like that stuff, it shouldn't be on social media, as far as I'm concerned.
I totally agree, and I just feel like we're in a weird age right now where people put every piece of their life on social media, and I never understood that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind sharing stuff, but I tell you, even if you are in the right, there are a lot of actors out there that I've seen, oh, don't ever work with this filmmaker because he did this or that, and it's, unless it is something grievous, but even then, most of the time I look at those, I'm just like, that there's somebody I'm not going to work with.
That's perfect. Yep. Unfortunately, yep. That's not the way it is.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of marketing and putting yourself out there, so you're doing your crowdfunding for Hard Place is in demand right now. I believe it's over $100,000 in.
Yeah, we're 119,000 right now. Yeah,
it's pretty high. But now I was reading something recently, and it was saying that, and I've talked to other filmmakers, and they were saying something like 70% of crowdfunding when it comes to indie horror filmmakers never reaches their goal.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, crowdfunding is tough. Crowdfunding stuff. Yeah, I think so. And the ones that do, I don't think there are many that are above, like, say, $50,000. I think it gets even less and less. I mean, I see a lot of small kind of rinky-dink productions doing $2,000 or $3,000. But you see very few that are like 20 or 30 or 40 and over, and then even fewer over 100, and then very few much over that.
So how did you crack the safe? I mean, how are you, promotion wise? How are you able to get to that next level of cracking $100,000?
Yeah. Well, so the first thing, the first thing that gave Craving a good boost. So I did a campaign, the 16 bits campaign I helped run, and we raised like $15,000 or $16,000. Not bad, nothing to sneeze at, right? But well under 20, well under the 70 we did for Craving. The difference between me helping on 16 bits and then Craving, like, 2 things happened. One is I started my filmmaking YouTube channel, and most people will say that YouTube subscribers and stuff, it won't really translate. But in my particular case, I was doing a channel for independent filmmakers all about distribution and marketing. And there I have not even that many. I think I just cracked like 20,000 subscribers. Not even huge. Nice. But like, it is a dedicated, group of subscribers, and that feel, for the lack of a better word, indebted to me. Like, I've given them information and shared with them financials about my movies and how to market their movies. And so when I talk about, hey, I'm doing a Indiegogo, and I've never asked any of them for a dime. that there's no subscription thing for it or nothing. So a lot of people wanted to support me, and another thing is I make, like probably about 5 years ago, I made this switch flipped in my head. And, I started realizing that if you want people to support you, you have to support people, so not just with the filmmaking channel, but with supporting other people doing crowdfunders. And, I'm not talking about like big money. I put in $5 here, $10 there, but, I've donated to over 100 campaigns, and continue and share them and share stuff for other people. Like when filmmakers post about their movies on Facebook and I see the post and I think it looks interesting or cool, I share it, and people reciprocate that. It's it's not some like bullshit like karma thing. It's like practical. If you are supportive of people will be supportive of you. Maybe not the same people, but people in general. People see me supporting others, they're like, this is a good dude, I'm gonna help support him. Okay.
Yep.
And then the other difference between say 16 bits and this is it was my movie. 16 bits was Aaron. So like I'm up front and center in this. And doing the YouTube channel, I got pretty good at, presenting on camera. Like I can talk to the camera well. I can connect with an audience. And, when you make your pitch video, I mean, no ego, but, my pitch video is damn good. And both of them, Hard Place and Craving. And people look at those, they're like, shit, yeah, man, I want to donate to that. And I walk the walk. I support people. I talk about inclusion and building stuff together, and I walk it. I involve people, and that is what I think separates me from a lot of the crowd. Like we're not just you're not just giving me money to make my movie. You're supporting someone who is building something bigger and who gives back all the time. Like, I was just watching another campaign. I won't name the filmmaker, but I'm looking at it and, they're on, Facebook complaining because their campaign topped out at, I forget what it was like, and it was decent, like 20,000 or something like that, or 30, something like that. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. But they wanted 100 and, they're like, why didn't I get to 100? Everybody else, this person, that person got to 100, but not me. Like I deserve this. And, so I think, okay. So